Hello, and welcome to Transformation by Truth podcast, where the called become the chosen, and those who have been dedicated to serve the Most High receive the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as we progress our quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life. My name is D.L. Anderson. I'll be your tour guide. Let's get started with today's lesson. Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast in the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life. Today, we have a brief word from your host and a reminder that exciting times are on the way. Today's podcast is entitled The Qualities of Strong Leaders, Part 2. Yahuwah, in your good pleasure, you have made my mountain to stand strong. Psalm 37. The podcast objectives are: reveal the importance of preventing sin from reigning in an assembly, reveal the fine line of meeting the requirements of ministry, and discuss the aftermath of the island experience. Now, our first section is entitled, Do Not Let Sin Reign. In the most recent podcast, we analyzed the 12 fundamental requirements of ministry, and we determined that these 12 requirements are founded upon two, i.e., the requirements of being without sin and ruling your house well. From there, we analyzed the requirement of being without sin, and seeing as parishioners are, in fact, ministers in training, we came to the following conclusion and a key interest point in this series. Receive this word of truth. Anyone who is continuing in sin is not a recognized member of the congregation of righteousness. Here lies the inflection, and one of the primary differences between strong leaders and the majority of those in the church. It is so crucial, I will offer it as another interest point. Strong leaders will not allow sin to destroy their flocks. Rather, they will deal with sin and those committing sin in a spiritual manner that will always end in accordance with the Father's will. As straightforward as this is and sounds, you will hardly see this take place in the religious circuit. And I get it. Excommunication or any manner of spiritual expulsion is complicated, and yet it is required. Likewise, it requires a leader who can thread the spiritual needle in this complex endeavor. For the assembly is a complex entity, and we are all yet in the transformation process. This is why 3 of the attributes of strong leaders are sobriety, wisdom, and discipline. Anyone without these 3 qualities will struggle to handle the situation and will, more often than not, compound an already delicate matter. Be that as it may, there is no greater damage than that which is caused by sin. Therefore, regardless of your spiritual estate as a leader, the call to action in this and every like situation is simple. Do not let sin reign. Now, our next section is entitled, The Finest of Fine Lines. This call to action speaks to the second of the 2 most fundamental requirements of ministry. That is, the call for a minister to rule their own house well. Perhaps one of the more obvious requirements, how a man or woman leads their family, is the primary indicator of how they will lead an assembly. Ergo, if you want to know who you will become under their leadership, just look at their natural children. All the same, this does not suggest someone is disqualified because of one child who has gone astray or two. However, depending on the state of family affairs, if the family is not in a good spiritual order, there should be some degree of investigation. Questions should be asked. Here's a saying that suggests where there is smoke, there must be fire. My dear friends, I believe this is almost always the case in the spiritual arena, which is why you must always err on the side of caution. You must know who and what you are dealing with. You must believe me because I have seen it. I have seen men and women wreck their own families who then went on to become leaders and or started assemblies, i.e., they failed to succeed as natural leaders, so they upped the ante and made themselves spiritual leaders. Here's a question. How do you believe these situations end? The answer, they never end well at all. As you would expect, their inability to rule their own homes led to countless infractions, persistent turmoil, and in the worst cases, both spiritual and physical death. That's right. Many sheep have died because of incompetent, backwards leadership. You can believe what you want, but I know what I've seen. And seeing the permanent damage done to the flock, I embrace the requirements the Father has established on ministry, and I know why these are required. And unlike some, I take them very seriously because all matters on this side are matters of life and death. And there is a fine line, the finest of fine lines between the two. Now, our next section is entitled After the Island Experience. My advice to you is simple. Stay away from that line at all costs. Even if it means you spend a season of your spiritual life on an island, that is still a better scenario than following a backwards pastor into endless death. And again, I call you to remember all the heroes of faith and the men and women who were forced out of their congregations because they, unlike the common religious ruck, were in tune with the Most High and true to his word. Do you remember Elijah? How about Shaul, aka the Apostle Paul? Remember David? We discussed him recently. What about Jeremiah? What about Yahushua, our Messiah? We could go on, but there is no need. For we know Elohim has not called us to foolishness, but to wisdom and to peace. And there is no wisdom in staying in an assembly where everyone is dying and has been dying for years. Likewise, there is no peace when you attempt to engage false believers who are not at peace with Elohim due to the uncleanness of their hearts, revealed by their constant disobedience to his word. There is no peace to the wicked. And this, my friends, is what separates strong leaders from those who are destroying their flocks. Strong leaders are examples of righteousness, and they have proven themselves to Elohim, which is the only reason why they have been chosen to minister on his behalf. As always, you don't have to take my word for it. Just look around and observe, and you will see the spiritual quality of any and every assembly is wholly congruent to the spiritual quality of those in the lead. And remember, those who follow him or her in this life will follow him or her in the life to come. The question of the hour then is, who do you want to follow? Do you want to follow an example of righteousness into life or a false prophet into death? If you choose life, chances are you are already in a congregation of righteousness. However, if you are still on an island and not sure where you should go, I encourage you to seek the Father for direction, for the island experience is only a season. I know from experience, it is never intended to be permanent. To aid you, I will continue to speak the qualities of a strong leader. Specifically, I will address the quality of protection. For whether you're in a failed ministry or on an island, you are not experiencing the highest level of spiritual and physical protection. As this protection is the Father's will, and the days are only getting more and more evil, it is nigh time for you to align yourself with the congregation the Father has called you to. It will be a good thing that you do for them, and an even greater thing you have done for yourself. For there is a better life waiting for you after the island experience. Now, here is the final word. Time is winding up. Whatever you are going to do it quickly. In my case, the Spirit is leading me to align myself with multiple strong leaders. Here again, there is strength in numbers, and the Father has revealed to me that these numbers will be vital in the difficult days ahead. Trust me, the strength of 1 or 2 or 10 will not be enough to survive what is coming. And so the Father is calling his true servants to unite, and we are, for the time is at hand. If the Spirit is speaking to you, I encourage you to move with urgency and build your ark for protection. For these are the days of Noah. Something greater than the flood is coming, and it will take all who are outside the Father's will away. Now, here is the assignment for today. Continue to pray and fast as you are led by the Spirit. As you have time, please go back and review all the podcasts I have posted thus far to aid you as you prepare for the quest ahead. And as always, please reach out to me directly at www.pinnacleofholiness.com if you have any questions. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, The Quality of the Strong Leaders Part 2. And the next podcast is The Quality of Strong Leaders Part 3. I don't know when I'll post it, but my goal is to do so next week. Until then, my friends, have a great week ahead. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Continue to live by the Spirit of Elohim, and I promise you, I will too. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Remember to tune in with us every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And if you haven't already, visit us at www.pinnacleofholiness.com and make sure you sign up to join the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life 2022.